On today's show, the Capitals break their road game winning streak in Dallas.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called the Capitals Minutecast, available wherever you find your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by College Football Playoffs. The College Football Playoff is here, and you don't want to miss a moment of the action. The College Football Playoff presented by Allstate begins with 4 first-round games, December 20th and 21st on ESPN, ABC, TNT, and Max. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about how all good things must come to an end as the Capitals' road game winning streak comes grinding to a halt in Dallas. What went wrong in that game? A little bit later, I'll talk about key performers that, despite the loss that the Capitals lost in this game, some players just continue to play some really great hockey. Later, I'll talk about the struggles in this game as were apparent as the Capitals started strong, but the struggles really took a hold later in the game. And then finally, we'll talk about Jakub Vrana's return to the lineup. But as I said, to start off, all good things must come to an end. And Tom Galletti posted this not long ago saying, the Capitals team record 10-game road winning streak ends with a 3-1 loss at American Airlines Center, where Stars are 13-0 this season. It wasn't going to be easy. And the Capitals have really stood up against some truly great teams. But historically, the Capitals have struggled at points playing in Dallas. Capitals' first road loss since 4-2 at Carolina on November 3rd. And think about, we're into December. This team has been rolling on the road. The Capitals' 4-game winning streak and 8-0-1 streak overall also end. But it's been a good ride, all things considered. And you knew it had to end at some point. They weren't going to be able to keep riding this into the end of the season, just continuing to win on the road. But all things considered, the Capitals started strong, lost their way, and it got pretty chippy. There was some fighting, and I'll talk later about the fight with Duhaime in the game. And ultimately, even Tom Wilson kind of wanted to get into it as well. I'm glad he ultimately didn't do that. But we're going to dive into all things talking about the Capitals, the excitement of the game. Yes, it was exciting, as I had high hopes the Capitals would be able to continue winning. Not the case, but it was a classic clash with the Capitals starting off strong, thanks to a strong performance from Dylan Strome, who netted his second goal in 2 games. Dylan Strome has been on fire this season. And like I've said before, he's the guy that's really kind of picked up the baton from Nick Backstrom. But in a lot of ways, he is really just excelling, I think, far more than anyone had projected him to this season. But unfortunately, despite the early lead, the Caps fell short, ending the game 3-1. And there were points. They could get back into it, but Jake Ottinger was a beast in net. Always has been, and has that history and relationship with Charlie Lindgren as well. It's tough to watch a strong start slip away, as I think that the Capitals could have walked away. There was a little bit of undisciplined play. There was some, I hate to say it, botched calls by the refs, but we really saw how important it is to maintain that intensity over a full 60 minutes. And that's one of the things that I talk about, and all of people that host these shows and coaches talk about, is you need to play a full 60 minutes. And the Capitals, well, they did not do that tonight. Ultimately, why Dallas walked away with the win and the Capitals fell in Dallas. So let's talk about standout players. It wasn't all negativity in this game, as we know that Alex Ovechkin is making strides towards recovering, that he will be playing sooner than any of us think. And, it's easy to just lose one game and to think that there's such doom and despair, but this team has played really well in his absence, and our offense looked promising with Strome and Jakob Chychrun both enjoying remarkable point streaks. And those are building blocks to build off. We know Ovi's coming here at some point, that we know losses are going to happen. It's just that us as Capitals fans this season in particular, we're not used to losses this season, as it seems like the Capitals really know how to win games on the regular. But in this game in particular, it was easy to buy into the script that this team could turn it around and do what they've done earlier in the season. Strome's early goal gave us hope, and Chychrun also has been lighting it up with 13 points in his last 9 games. Again, Strome, Chychrun, magic on this year for this Capitals team. Again, it's all about the positivity. It is about talking about what worked and what didn't. And what worked in this game was Strome and Jakob Chychrun. Strome's impressive total of 38 points also puts him among the league's top scorers, tied for 13th. Again, high hopes when Strome came to this team. I don't think anyone saw him performing quite this well, but the ultimate competitor. There was that moment, it wasn't this game, it was the game against Buffalo, where he was just so angry that he didn't score a goal. And that's, he's not the kind of guy that mails it in. He is full intensity. But what a fantastic duo to have Jakob Chychrun and Dylan Strome on this team. Again, making the case, let's lock Chychrun up for the long term. I mean, it's all about him at the end of the day. I think the Capitals are more than willing. It's just, how much is that going to cost? With his performance this year, it's not going to come cheap. But the one thing I'm going to say, give the man the money he needs to make this his long-term home. But other player highlights in this game, Taylor Radish for picking up his 10th assist of the season. He's really stepping up this season, matching his total from last year in far fewer games. And Taylor Radish in particular was one of those reclamation projects almost, that a depth piece almost, that he was looking for a bounce back season. And of course, like I talked about there, his 10th assist of the season is really doing that with this team that on, night in and night out, on a game in, game out basis, is firing on all cylinders. And also some physical play, like I talked about earlier, as well as Brandon Duhaime and Brendan Smith throwing down after Smith's hit on Tom Wilson. So there always has to be, the de facto tough guy on the team. And in Tom Wilson's absence, it's Brandon Duhaime. You got to think that it would be Dylan McElrath if he was in the lineup. But it's nothing new to Duhaime. He is used to dropping the mitts as well, and an intense guy. And I'm going to go ahead and say that Duhaime won the fight over Brendan Smith. So it's good that it is that team tough, and the Capitals have some guys on the team that are willing to answer the bell. And that was the case with Duhaime tonight. And a tip of the hat goes to him for standing up with Tom Wilson. As we know, he can't fight with that whole aquarium bubble on the front of his face. So what that does is that's the kind of grit we love to see, that team tough. But I think at the end of the day, we just need to channel that energy into sustained performance. But ultimately, when you see that kind of acting out, when you see the fighting, that kind of thing, what that's about is a team that's frustrated. If the Capitals were playing a great hockey game, I don't think that you would have seen that frustration from players like Brandon Duhaime. And it wasn't just him. You saw Nick Dowd irritated, but Dowd was more irritated with the call on the ice, as was John Carlson. Is that, I hate to blame officiating. And to be clear here, officiating didn't lose the game for the Capitals tonight, but it definitely was not optimal, shall we say. But at the end of the day, hopefully the Capitals can learn a few things as they are playing against the Blackhawks on Tuesday evening. So there is not a lot of time to lick their wounds. It's about cleaning it up. It's about playing a team that in the standings is definitely not as good as Dallas, and on paper should be easier. Again, we don't want to fall into a trap game, but all things considered, it should be an easier opponent than the Capitals faced this evening. But a tough loss. I was hoping that the Capitals would continue to keep rolling, but it was not the case. All right, so coming up here after the break, I will talk about struggles this team faced. And a little bit later, I'll talk about Jakub Vrana to the lineup. I'll discuss next. Today's episode is sponsored by Built Rewards. If you're a renter, listen up. This is a total game changer. Thanks to Built, you can now earn points on rent payments just like you do with groceries or travel. Paying rent now comes with serious perks, and it's completely free to join. Earn valuable Built points on your rent and everyday spending at no extra cost. Redeem points for flights, hotel stays, and even future rent payments with over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels in their program. The possibilities are endless. Access unique experiences that are exclusive to Built members. And what's not to love? Paying rent and getting rewarded for it. That is why I love Built Rewards. So start earning points on rent you've already been paying by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnhl. That's joinbuilt.com/lockedonnhl. Make sure to use our link so they know we sent you. Don't wait. Start earning rewards today. The World Series, Super Bowl, the Olympics, the world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. SelectQuote is one of America's leading insurance brokers for nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers are impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may not cost you more and cover you less, while SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs. You invest so much time to take care of yourself and be the healthiest, best version of you. SelectQuote's exclusive policies can reward that effort. So get the right life insurance policy for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Just go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl today to get started. That's selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team. Every day you can find me over on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps, talking some Capitals in the early morning as I am recording this at 12:07 Eastern. Just reflecting on a game that was, and a tough break for the Capitals that have this season shown resiliency. They've shown bounce back, but not the case tonight. All things considered, it was a one-off. It's a blip. I expect them to be back in the saddle, winning games yet again. Dallas is really good. They were playing at home. That team has played at home very well this year, not trying to cut the team any excuses. But again, you can't win them all. And the Capitals have just got to brush their shoulders off and get ready for the Blackhawks. Now, offensive struggles in this last game. After the fury that the Capitals had, our offense just couldn't keep it together. Jake Ottinger, this guy, I tell you, he is a bit of a brick wall in net. Definitely one of the best in the NHL. Make no mistake about it, making 25 saves to squash the Capitals' opportunities. All things, you take a look at it, they struggled with the power play, going 0 for 3, which is a frustrating statistic. And that's one of the things I've talked about on this show, is making the most of your opportunities. Hey, the Capitals would have got 1 goal, 2 goals, 3 goals there. How much different would this game have been? And conversely, we allowed the Stars to get to our penalty kill, letting Rope Hintz score during a power play, which really shifted the momentum for the Stars. And at that point, it was definitely, blood in the water, and there was sharks circling this team as they sensed the weakness. You go on the power play 0 for 3, and you let the Stars get working on the Caps PK, and it's not too good. The Capitals just came unraveled tonight, and it's one of the things that they have been team tough. I think that they've been playing, pretty even keel this year. It was just not their night. But talking about team challenges, watching this game, it became clear that while we started strong, maintaining that momentum was a challenge. Like I talked about, that it was a penalty here. It was a power play opportunity that was wasted. That is ultimately why the Capitals are in the position that they're in. The Stars began to dominate possession, dictating the pace and keeping the Capitals on their heels. We need to find a way to regain control during these middle frames if we want to secure wins in tight games like this one. They're not going to all be blowouts. They're not going to all be games that the Capitals just steamroll the other team with. It's just not going to be the case, but the Capitals have got to be the ones to overcome. So again, I don't want to think that the sky's falling and that this team fell apart because of a loss tonight, but it was a game that they could have won. I think that if they would have played the brand of hockey that we have seen from them so far this year, I definitely think they could have walked away from this game with a win. But it was just, in a lot of ways, it was the perfect scenario for the Dallas Stars, that they were making the most of their opportunities. They were limiting the Capitals' opportunities, and Jake Ottinger was a brick in net. Can't win them all. It's a difficult position for the Capitals to be in, but it is what it is. And let's just take a look at it briefly. Let's not dwell on it too much. Clean up the things that need to be cleaned up. I'm talking special teams, something that has been huge for the Capitals this year. Clean it up. And also let's concentrate and reflect on the things that went well. Dylan Strome, Jakob Chychrun, that it's building blocks. Those are the things that you're going to need to concentrate on and let some of the negativity and stuff kind of wane. Because at the end of the day, those things are going to bring you down. You want to concentrate on how well this team is playing overall and get ready for your next opponent. In this case, the Chicago Blackhawks. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about a bit of a lineup change in this game as we saw Jakub Vrana in. Earlier in the afternoon, it said that Hendrix Lapierre was going to be out of the lineup, but then no, Andrew Mangiapane was ill. What was the story with the Capitals lineup out there tonight? I'll break it all down next. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. And listen, guys, there's a ton of football that's played on Sunday, Monday, or Thursday, and some of those games you're into, some of them you're not. But if you want to pique your interest, open up the FanDuel app, put a little bit of money on the game. All of a sudden, those games got that much more exciting. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day, so a bit of a lineup change as things have pretty much been status quo for this team for quite some time. Hey, if it's working, why try to change things up? And for the longest time, this team wasn't broken, so why try to shake things up? But that was the word this afternoon. That Hendrix Lapierre was going to be out and insert Jakub Vrana. But as it turns out, that Andrew Mangiapane was facing some sort of illness, and this presented an opportunity for Jakub Vrana. This was his return to the lineup after being scratched for 10 games. And it's one of the things that you take a look at it. What did he do wrong? What did Jakub Vrana do wrong? Well, inconsistent play is the thing. And Spencer Carberry, I've heard Tarek El-Bashir talk about it as well, that it's kind of the story that's followed him around his entire career. In a lot of ways, why the Capitals dealt him in the first place is just because, he's a fast guy. He has glimpses of greatness, but sustainability. And you take a look at it, is he going to be the best guy out there? Is Hendrik Lapierre the better option, or is it Jakub Vrana? Is a better option Jakub Vrana or Andrew Mangiapane? These kind of things. Now, it was exciting to see him back on the ice playing alongside Lapierre and Eller, but as I'm kind of reflecting at my time already earlier-ish in the season, was Jakub Vrana the right idea? Or was it just a feel-good story? Is that what it's going to boil down to? Is just a feel-good story, these vintage vibes surrounding Jakub Vrana? Again, he hasn't played horribly, but has he played better than Hendrik Lapierre? That is the question. And people will oftentimes bicker and argue with the fact that, Hendrik Lapierre, I think sometimes it's the intangible things. I think it has to do with hockey IQ with Hendrik Lapierre versus Jakub Vrana. And ultimately, both of those guys, they need to work on their game a little bit. I think that Hendrik Lapierre has showed improvement over the start of the season, moving his legs a bit better, playing a bit more aggressive, playing like he is fighting for his NHL job. So I don't think he wants to get sent back down to Hershey. But all things considered, I don't think that either one of those, or I don't think that Jakub Vrana, shall we say, I don't think that he is going to have, long-term home with the Capitals. Taking a look at him on the team today, one shot on goal. That's it. But you take a look around the other players that were playing around him as well. You could make the argument, Hendrik Lapierre, what did he put up? All zeros. What did Lars Eller put up? All zeros. So, in a lot of ways, it's I don't think that there's a perfect answer as far as what players in there. I think sometimes it's just the coaches and what they're noticing, and sometimes they're noticing things that we're not. Some players really lit it up. Like I said, Chychrun, 3 shots on goal, Radish 3, Strome 3, that some players are really kicking it in. Matt Roy, 4 shots on goal. That I think you just need to make an impression. And tonight, it was just a team that the offense wasn't scoring. It wasn't getting a lot done, as you can tell, 3-1 final. But in any event, taking a look at Jakub Vrana, I think that, he needs to make the most of his opportunity when given the opportunity. We've seen players do that before. We've seen Protas do that before. Miroshnichenko has maintained his spot on the roster. So I think for a lot of these guys that are kind of on the fringe, that I think they really need to up their game. Jakub Vrana is just one of those players on the lineup. So in conclusion here, as we look ahead, it's clear that we have a talented and capable roster, capable of doing big things, of course. But they're going to have to clean up the things that I talked about tonight, special teams in particular. And, I know it's hard, and I'm not on the ice with them. I'm watching it on TV, that kind of thing, is that, the officiating is frustrating, but you can't let it get into your head. And I saw it get into Dowd's head. I saw it get into Carlson's head. Different players, when they were on the bench, you could tell that really kind of rattled them. I think in a lot of ways, even more than the scoreboard did, that you just kind of, it's hard and it's easier said than done, but you can't let it rattle you. And I think that was the case. So to put a ball on the show, what needs to change? Special teams, making the most of your opportunities. When you're on the power play, you need to score goals. You need to be effective on the PK, and just get back to doing what's done very well for you all season, driving the net, setting up in front, looking for deflections, redirects, those things, all of those things that have been so part of the Capitals' secret sauce this year. Let's not forget what got the Capitals where they're at right now. But again, the Capitals are going to have to lace it up again on Tuesday night as they take on the Blackhawks. And hopefully I can talk to you guys about yet another big Capitals win. All right. Once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals and making it your first listen of the day. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.